So Mike Hall, with Chip Ganassi Racing, among other things, if you could describe this dinner in one word, what would it be?
Oh, I have to do this stuff in one word.
You could just say the word.
Enjoyable.
I don't like how much thought that required.
And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver. I'm very angry. This is the sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do you think I should order?
Welcome to Dinner with Racers. I'm Ryan Eversley alongside my co-host Sean Heckman,
Hi.
and welcome to Season 2.
We are just minutes away from arriving at LAX and getting Ryan out of Los Angeles because this is the end of a 40-day tour that went across 29 states, driving 12,000 miles in a Honda Odyssey. And that Honda had a certain set of tires.
Continental Tire.
Cross Contact LX20. All in the name of bringing you, the listener, 28 additional free podcast episodes, and we thank you for listening. All right, when you're driving through Indianapolis or Speedway, Indiana, there's a million people you want to meet up with, obviously being IndyCar Central. There's drivers, there's engineers, there's team owners. But when it comes to success and class and all kinds of things that we don't understand with our podcast, it's hard to look a lot further than Chip Ganassi Racing. And when you think about Chip Ganassi Racing, the guy you want to talk to beyond Chip is Mike Hall.
Truly an honor to get to hang out with Mike Hull. I mean, the guy's done it all. He's so kind. He gave us a shop tour, which was very insightful, and never once was like, don't mention this or don't mention that. Just couldn't be happier to show us all the cool stuff. He got what we wanted to see. He got why we were there.
Now, for those who don't know who Mike Hall is, he's essentially the guy when it comes to Chip Ganassi Racing's IndyCar program. He runs the day-to-day of the operation and has basically been one of the key most roles in the team's success. And we talk about all of that and more. The guy's had several decades in the sport, and it's just genuinely one of the classiest guys we've ever met. So we went back to Tegry Sushi the same day.
That's right. And I had the bento box chicken teriyaki, I believe. We didn't see any IndyCar drivers that didn't call us
yeah,
back.
it must be a lunchtime deal.
It's a lunch place.
Yeah, that's where if you're an IndyCar driver that doesn't call us back,
that's where you go.
That's where you go for
Right,
lunch, but
right.
not dinner.
Right.
But they
not bitter.
still brought back the chicken sandwich.
Yep. Yeah, they made you another chicken sandwich, which was interesting.
All right, let's hear Mike Hall.
All right, we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, there's Mike
Oh,
Hall.
there he is.
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome. Yeah, set it aside there.
hanging
There you
out.
go.
Just right in the middle.
Yeah, right there in the middle.
Perfect.
One of our, we'll have you put on the headset when you're ready to.
Should we continue?
Yeah, we should continue.
We'll
I
do
think we
one-
should go right after that. We'll do one round or
One
two
round.
rounds. Two rounds.
Two
Two out of
rounds.
three.
Okay.
There you go. So we'll explain what we're doing when you get the headset on.
Is that okay?
Oh, wow.
man,
That's
listen
like
to that.
perfect, man.
That's
Okay.
a voice
That's
right
an
there.
FM radio voice.
All right.
Cool.
Okay, so we were just everything set up normally,
Yeah.
so we had some extra time. We were playing a game that we just created, but it's something we've kind of been working on a little while now. It's called Racer Roulette for Racer.com, and then the rule is the first comment on the thread on the article shitty or not, because it tends to be. So we just played one round, and I won.
We just read the headline. I'm like, I bet the first comment on that is shitty. And we see
Okay.
if we're right or not.
So the first one was NBC bulks up coverage for the United States Grand Prix, and of course the first comment was like, well, why didn't they do that to begin? That's kind of the thing. So we're gonna play around here and see what we come up with. The article is Ferrari criticism this season unfair from Sebastian Vettel. I'm gonna go comment for the first one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. What do you think?
From a team standpoint,
I don't think this is what he thought he was walking into.
no, that's okay. No, I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
From a team standpoint, I understand the aggressive nature of race drivers like Vettel.
Oh no. We're talking about the no. This isn't about the Ferrari.
You're too
metal
smart
thing.
for us.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
You got to think like a Neanderthal like us.
So the first comment from a fan, is it going to be a positive comment about the article, or is it going to just be some negative hate?
Oh, I think it'll be negative.
Okay,
it's not about the article. It's about the headline, and then we read the first.
That's
comment.
an interesting view.
Because we've noticed, we believe we've fixed, clearly we haven't, but we believe we've gotten the forums better, because during last season's podcast, all we did was pick on the forum commenters and all the nastiness. We noticed there is a trend towards it being a little more positive than it used to be.
Since last season of our podcast.
We're taking all the credit, so now we're playing this game to see. But go ahead. That's all. All right, and the answer is?
It's a neutral comment.
Oh.
If Ferrari doesn't win, they get criticized, so what's the difference? What else is new?
Huh.
That's just a neutral
That's
thought.
But isn't he part of Ferrari?
What's that?
Yeah,
He's part of Ferrari.
Yeah.
We weren't asking if they were intelligent criticisms,
Oh,
just
I
if they were shitty. So,
All right,
let's do one more round.
One more?
One more
Okay,
round,
we'll do
because
one
we need it,
more.
because the article is about criticism.
Okay.
So
Sure,
let's find like
sure.
a neutral article
Okay,
where
let's
the
go
three of
with-
us don't agree.
Let's go with IndyCar racing, because
Yeah.
that's your wheelhouse for the most part here. And the article is Hildebrand fighting for ECR drive. All right. So I'm going to say the first comment's going to be negative, because someone's going to want their favorite driver instead.
Okay.
Sean?
I think it's going to be negative, but it's going to be about how IndyCar can't find enough sponsorship for like having another car.
Right.
What do you think, Mike?
So
The article is about Hildebrand fighting for the Ed Carpenter drive. And again, it's not about the article. It's about the forum comment, the first forum
fighting
comment.
for the drive.
Yeah.
I think he was out of there. Why would he fight for it?
We're not explaining this very well.
Okay. So in terms of what
What's
a
the first
fan is
fan
going to say,
Yeah.
I think a fan is going to be very, very, very negative about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Coming down.
So
It's a big article.
You're universally negative. Just why is the question?
Oh,
Oh.
positive.
Okay. We lost. We've all lost.
It's come on, Ed. Sign him up now.
That's the first forum comment. So,
Yeah.
so
All
Mike,
right.
you've lost. Dinner's on you.
Okay, that's all right. I buy dinner quite a bit.
No.
So that's Racer Roulette, which we just kind of finally finalized.
We found a thing.
Well, I don't know. Social media or the internet is, in my opinion, is somewhat different from the social media.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because the internet is typically isn't 140 characters.
Right.
Right.
And depending on who writes the article and how much space they actually are allowed to have,
Right.
that determines the depth and the concentration of what you're going to get to read.
Sure.
If you're a passionate fan,
Yeah.
you want those in-depth articles.
Sure.
Sure.
If you're a fan, you want 140 characters.
Sure.
Because your life is, I'm a fan of football, baseball, auto
Yeah.
racing, whatever. I'm
Yeah.
not just an auto racing fan. And I think it's very different, but I think it's difficult. I'm on Twitter, and I think it's not impossible, but it's difficult for somebody to be very negative with 140 characters.
Sure.
Oh.
I would. That's
should-
not true. First of
Well,
all,
I know it's not impossible, and I get hit. I get hammered by some people.
Really?
Oh my God, yes.
Well, to me, the difference is. Oh, go ahead.
But I follow Ricky Fowler, the golfer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so not a week or so ago, there was this guy. I'm assuming it was a guy. I shouldn't probably say that. I probably get scolded by our human resources director for saying it that way. But
you can fire
the
him.
reality is there was a person that was hammering the heck out of Ricky Fowler. I don't remember what it was about.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about him on Twitter is he's not super diplomatic about his response.
Right.
He came right at this person and said, "Man, if you could come out behind your laptop screen and actually look at me face to face, we could probably have a conversation and work this out.
Yeah.
But you just continually hide behind that thing all the time." And then there was a couple other guys, a couple other PGA golfers that jumped right on it immediately. Luke Donald, and there was 2 or 3 others, immediately took his side and said the same thing about the social media. You can either be positive and take the high road and make things better.
Right.
Right.
Even though you might disagree, there's 2 ways to disagree about anything.
Sure.
You can make constructive criticism or you can burn the house down.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating. There's not very many people on the social media that are willing to take those kind of people on.
Right.
And I think they're so worried about their brand, their image,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
I don't know. But I get hit.
Really?
Oh
See,
my God.
I
yes.
to me, the difference between forums and social media is that you're actually, in theory, interacting with the person,
That
whereas
person.
the forum is completely anonymous.
You
Yeah.
just
you
sometimes
can
assume they
blab
don't read
whatever
it.
you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it goes back to some of it goes back to the split between when the IndyCar split did happen.
Yeah.
Some of it goes to that. There's people that hold a grudge for that.
Yeah.
And on our sports car side, it's people that absolutely hated us when we went to Ford.
Right.
Sure.
And now that we've gone to Honda from Chevrolet, there's a couple of the same people. It's like, get over it.
Can't win.
Right.
You know, get over it, man, and let's get on with it here.
Right.
It used to be in motor racing that you had different cars, different tire manufacturers, different engines, multiple teams that did things that were significant. And now if you want to try to create an avenue to be able to do that, there's a lot of these people that want to take you to task.
While we're on the topic of social media, I follow you, and I appreciate that one of the most common things you write at the end of a tweet is "Thanks for being an IndyCar fan."
You know, the thing is I was very resistant to it, to be very candid.
Sure.
And 2 years ago now, right prior to the Indy 500, the person who handled at the time our social media said to me, she was in the Indianapolis office. She's based in North Carolina, but she was in the Indy office, and she says, "Why aren't you on social media?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Well, you should do it." And she said, "Do you have a Twitter account?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." She said, "But you don't post or anything." I said, "No, I love Twitter because I can read. I follow people that I like to follow,
Yeah.
and I read about what they're doing, and then some of the sites that I follow have links, and so I can get a lot of information
Right.
quickly.
Sure.
Right.
And I don't have to sit in front of my laptop and browse the internet to
Yeah.
find out what I want to find out. So I really do enjoy it." And so then she said, "Well, would you just do this? Just for Indianapolis, from practice through the race, just put out a tweet every day, or maybe two if you feel like it, and attach a photo to it or not, and just tell people what you see
Yeah.
Yeah.
from your perspective, not from the perspective that you think they would want to see."
Right.
Right.
I said, "Okay." So I did it. So I started to gather a little steam, and then what happened was I started to get questions,
Right.
which I wasn't ready for at all. And we went to the next race after the 500, which was Detroit. And setup day, Thursday, I'm in the paddock, and a person walks up to me. And what had always happened prior was people would come up and they would be a little frightened, you
Yeah.
know. And you'd have to almost break the ice with them. And they would always say, "Boy, it's really nice to meet you. Could I ask you a question?" But what started to happen is that from Detroit onward, people would come up and they would just jump right into the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, because now they know you.
Like,
sure.
because
Yeah.
they kind of
Yeah.
know you, or they've interacted with
Yep.
you, and you don't know if they've interacted with you on
Right.
Twitter
Right.
Yeah.
or not. But I find it fascinating that you can do what you said. You can tell people what's going on. There's some things that you probably have to maintain confidentiality about.
Sure.
But I think you try to tell people that in a nice way, so they're not totally offended by your answer.
Yeah.
I had a guy the other night that asked me a question which I responded to, and there was this guy in California that just jumped on the answer immediately and said, "He told you." That should be good enough.
Right.
And so I don't know. It's nice. I enjoy doing it, and I think it makes a difference.
All right. So I gotta ask.
This can't be real.
Yeah. Okay. So you're Chip's guy, right? On this side of the pond. When it comes to anything road racing, open wheel, you're running the deal. That's a high power, high profile job. And
He's laughing.
And
He's
you-
like, whatever.
and during this entire process of getting you onto our podcast, you have been insanely accommodating.
Too accommodating.
To the point that you called us to the
Yeah.
point that you went out of your way to call us to let you know you were going to be literally 3 minutes late to
Okay.
meeting us at the shop, which is something we don't get from just about anybody, let alone a guy in your place. You can't be like this with everybody because you run out of time.
Well, I think you have to measure that with what you're doing.
I mean, I know we're a huge deal.
Well, yeah, but the thing is you guys are. But the reality is I think you have to remember where you came from.
Sure.
And you have to treat everybody not only with respect, but you have to treat everybody the same.
Sure.
And I remember when I grew up in Southern California, and I hung around at the racetracks before I could drive race cars, and all I wanted to do was learn about racing.
Sure.
Anything I could learn. And in those days, there were a lot of professional racing teams that were based in Southern California.
Right.
That raced in Can-Am, Trans Am, Formula 5000, and then there was big-time drag racers that were all there. So you'd go to a drag race. You could go to, in 1 week's time, you could go to 5 different major drag races in Southern California.
Yeah.
What made such a positive impression on me were some of those people and how receptive they were to me when I was a kid.
Right.
And what it meant to me for them to answer my question and take the time to do it. And in fairness to the answer, there were some of them that were total dicks. So
Yeah, 100%.
and
That
some
sticks
really
with it.
famous people.
Yeah.
I used to go to Riverside Raceway on a practice day, and you stand by the pit wall. You could get right in there, and there was hardly anybody there. And Team McLaren would be there, and you could talk to McLaren, you could talk to Hulme.
Yeah.
You could talk to Tyler Alexander, and they would take the time to talk to you, and the mechanics, all the Kiwis that worked there.
Yeah.
They were great people, and you could walk one pit box up, and the people that were in that pit box that were world famous were jack-offs.
Right.
So, that always made such a strong impression
Yeah,
on me that I
100%.
always thought, that's how you have to live your life.
Right.
I wish I had time to spend with more people,
Sure.
but
Well, that's the thing that blew our mind is like
know?
it's not a matter of you not wanting to spend time with people, but I just don't see how you could
but
be
it's this
accommodating
device
to
right here.
Okay.
That's what makes it so easy. You've got this electronic device in your hand that it can control your life. Let's face it.
You
But
let it, right.
the reality is you can pick the phone up and call somebody, or you can send them a text, or you can send them an email. And in my opinion, the faster you do it, the faster you get on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Or the more you're inviting more emails. Like it really
no,
depends
but
on
I
the
mean, it's
business
just
you're in, so.
it's the reality that news travels at good news and bad news travels at the same rate.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Right.
Yeah.
I like
Right.
it.
So I've always been one that hates to wait.
Yeah.
I hate people. Well, hate's a
Stop
strong
there.
word for what you just said about me, but I dislike people that are Monday and Friday people. They think about it all week, and then on Friday they give you an answer, or they think about it on the weekend and they give you an answer on Monday.
Okay.
I just hate that because it can't take that long to create an answer.
Yeah. I like this guy.
Are you
I
okay,
don't know-
Sean?
Yeah, I don't know where
Yeah,
to go. That's profound.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Um,
that's how I look at it.
You couldn't take the cut and pay, but you should run all PR for all of motorsports, if I may say.
You guys get paid?
We're in Southern California. Where in Southern California?
I grew up. I had a great childhood. My mom and dad were divorced when I was really young, and my mom lived in Vista, California.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I lived down there in the summertime with her. In the wintertime when I went to school.
Yeah.
You had to go to school, And it was a wonderful place to grow up. And my dad lived in Los Angeles, so in the summertime I spent a lot of time with him. So I was up there all summer.
Where in L.A.?
West L.A.
Okay. I went to school
So it was a great place to grow up, and what was terrific about it for me was I just was passionate about motorsports, and there was every form of motorsports there then.
Yeah.
It was based there, whether it be drag racing,
Right.
lake bed racing, road racing, oval racing, you name it, and the teams were there.
Right.
So it was somewhat easy to get over the fence to learn about it.
Yeah.
It was a great place to grow up, loving car, and especially the car culture.
Yeah, it's so
California.
huge in Southern
And I
California,
notice
sure.
it. Like, what's interesting to me is we go to Long Beach every year, and still you see that generationally there with the people
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And you don't see it generationally at all the racetracks. That car culture
Right.
generational thing.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me so much of growing up there and loving cars. Didn't matter what kind of car it was, just loving distinctive cars.
Right.
And getting to see distinctive teams race those cars, which
Right.
even better.
Paul Fanner had some really neat things to say about you, including that you were his driver coach.
I was, well, Paul Fanner, I worked at the Jim Russell School at Willow Springs
Okay.
when I was young and dumb and trying to race Formula Fords, and it was a great place because that's what they had there were Formula Fords.
Sure.
And first of all, you had to keep them running. Secondly, you had to try to teach somebody else how to do something you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was at, I think at Riverside the first time I met him maybe. And we developed a terrific friendship and a relationship that started there.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we've interacted quite a bit. Yeah. Yeah, and he's got his SCCA logbook. I don't know if he told you about that or not, but it's classic.
Yeah.
We'll let you tell the story.
Oh well,
again.
I don't remember exactly what I wrote in there, but I didn't know what to write about him because he was trying to find his way. I think that's a good way to say it.
That's code.
And and I don't know that he was a frustrating student necessarily, but he was just like a lot of people that are so in love with wanting to learn how to race,
Right.
but they have a tough time getting through the corners.
Right.
Let's face it.
That's exactly.
And
So I think
you
I
told
wrote
him.
in there that he was great on the straightaway or something.
Good between the corners.
But, yeah, right. So, but he did a lot better. He kept going, and his love of Formula Ford racing in particular was like everybody else's during that era of time.
Right.
When I was at Sonoma we tested out there the week before the race, and I was there. This guy walks up to me, and I look at this guy. I said, "Man, he looks familiar." And he said, "Mike." I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm Bob." Bob, yeah. He says, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Honestly," I said, "I wish I could. And you look really familiar to me." He says, "Well, the last time we saw each other was 40 years ago." I said, 40 years ago? He says, "Yeah, my name is Bob Blackwood." And I said, "Oh, Bob, hi, how you doing?" And she says, "Do you remember how we met?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember exactly where we met and when and how." And it was at Riverside Raceway in 1972. And it was in February, the SCCA National, and about 100 Formula Fords there in a race. And it was raining, torrentially raining. All 14 inches of what probably happened in California that year happened on that day.
One day, sure.
So he said, "I brought you a photo," and he hands me this photo, and it's me behind him going up into turn 6 at Riverside in the wet. And he said, "You remember that we led almost the whole race?" And I said, "I do remember that." And what happened with about 2 laps to go, the thing dried out completely, and we were jacked, and we backed up about 4 or 5 spots. I think I finished 5th. He finished 4th.
Yeah.
But the photo is classic. It's a black and white photo, and to me it just represented that time in racing.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you had all these different cars and all these different guys, and they all wanted to race cars, and Fanner was like that. He wanted to race the cars just like all the rest of us did.
Yeah.
And, man, it was fun.
We met up, speaking of driving, we met up with, I want to say it was Dan Binks.
I'm pretty sure it's Dan Banks.
A couple interviews ago, we were with Dan Binks, who's obviously gone on to do
Yeah.
his own stuff, who really wanted us to grill you about your driving career.
Yeah, that was his one thing. He said, "Ask him about his driving career." And we said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, he'll know." And we were like, "Are we going to get in trouble?"
I remember Phil Banks really well, first of all.
Yeah.
His father.
Yes.
Right.
A terrific, integrity-filled guy. And I went down to Holtville to race, which was this airport track near El Centro, California, and they had a winter series down there. This guy comes over to me, and it was myself and my wife, and that was it. You work on your own car and you're racing, and my wife and I were there, and this guy comes up to me and he says, "I'm Phil Binks." I said, "Hi, how you doing?" And I said, "I'm Mike Hall." He said, "Oh." He said, "Yeah, I've heard about you." He said, "Good things." He said, great to have you here," because Phil ran the San Diego region of the SCCA.
Right.
And if there's anything that we can do or I can do for you personally, please let me know. And I'm thinking, man, this guy's a terrific guy. And so we developed this friendship and relationship that exists still to this day. Every time I see Phil, last time I saw him was at Road America this year, Danny Banks, and I have so much admiration for this guy, for what he's accomplished, how hard he works, and how fair he is.
Yeah.
Right.
How fair he is with competitors. And the fact that he takes the time to come and say congratulations when he's probably thinking about why they didn't have congratulations that particular day, that guy has a big heart.
It's big, pure class.
Yeah.
And now his son works for you.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
And he's a really good guy. And I don't know if he wanted to get out from underneath his father's umbrella or what happened, but I'm glad that he works for us.
Well, the way Dan put it was that he didn't want him to work for him because he's like, you'll never not be my kid.
Yeah,
You'll always be Dan Binks' kid, and I want you to survive and flourish on your own. And so he was like, I'd prefer you to go out. And apparently he kind of got that too. He's like, I need to go out there.
Yeah, I'm in the same position. My son works for Sam Schmidt.
Okay.
And he's Lation's chief mechanic, and now he's a team manager, Sam Schmidt's.
Oh, cool. You wouldn't want to make Ganassi necessarily.
Well, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah,
it was the same thing with us. He's a really good guy, good kid. He's got his together. And he's found his own way, and he does a really good job of it.
Right.
And
Does it ever really bug you if you guys get beat by them?
if you get beaten racing, I think you have to get over it quickly.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's
again.
going to keep happening.
Right. Because people, if you don't, they're going to use your shoulder blades continuously for traction.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to understand why you didn't finish where you should have.
Right.
And get on with it.
Yeah.
Shoulder blades retraction.
Yeah, I'm holding on to that.
That is awesome.
All right. So speaking of the Ford GT program, I got to know, and you don't have to name names, but you really should name names. In our little sports car world, that was like for every driver that has ever gotten behind the wheel, that was their golden opportunity to go run a factory Le Mans program. So in my head, you guys got hundreds of people reaching out, just sort of making sure you knew they were available.
A lot of new best friends.
What was the worst way someone put themselves out there? Like, did somebody show up as a pizza delivery man with a resume in it? You know,
The worst way.
The worst way. And you don't have to name names.
No.
Of
I'd have to think about that because I thought it was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, and I'm not going to avoid the answer.
Okay.
But the level of people that contacted us were at the level where they didn't have to send flowers,
Right.
Did they send flowers?
Did somebody?
But there were a couple of people that tried to. We had made a statement that we were going to go through a process to figure out who we wanted, and we did, and I thought we did a good job of that.
Sure.
But there were a couple of people that tried to pull favors.
Okay.
To jump the line a little bit.
Sure.
Like people that would try and work the Ford angle
Yeah,
over
that's
you guys?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or maybe a friend of a friend, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I'll tell you what I really do like personally is I like drivers who take the initiative to make the call.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whether they have an agent or not.
Right.
Because it's all about the way racing works, in my opinion, is in order to have a team of people that are cohesive,
Right.
the drivers are the quarterbacks. And they have to be able to understand that they have to take the initiative to make it happen, and it includes this situation. It never bothers me a bit for a driver to call or leave a message or send a text or send an email, whatever they do, directly to make a contact. And it doesn't bother me. Like for next year, if a driver says, hey, don't forget about me.
Right.
Because how would we remember that they might want to be remembered if they didn't?
So nothing stands out as
Nothing stands
as
out. There was
something
never
that-
that.
No, I don't know. I'd
Eversley,
have
stop calling me. There was never that
I don't
kind of.
remember.
No, not really.
Okay.
No.
There was not one email you forwarded to Chip like, come on, look at this guy.
Look at this
Look at this guy. It's like a video resume.
No, it was pretty good. Chip and I sat down with a list of people, and we had either contacted or been contacted. There was probably an active roster roll call thing going on there, maybe 40 or 50 people.
Right.
But we sat down and we looked at it. We do what we always do. We kind of go on our instincts, and so we kind of then made a categorical list of how we wanted to approach that list with priority. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And we didn't shotgun the thing. We just went one at a time
Okay.
on the list. I don't know how other teams operate because we operate our team, but we have to. We like drivers who are unselfish, whether they're in a single seater or whether they're in a shared sports car.
Right.
But they're totally unselfish with their teammate,
Right.
and they want to give the car to their teammate like they would want it to be given to them. And you want those kind of drivers that have those instincts and then have the ability to close the deal. This is a big time program,
Right.
and the hard part about this program is saying no to drivers that potentially could make it, but in their careers they're still learning how to close the deal.
Winning Le Mans obviously had to be the target from day one, but did you think in a first-year program that was actually possible?
Well, the eternal optimist always thinks they
Sure.
can win, but it was a big hill to climb.
Right.
It was a mountain to climb. It was an Alp. And first of all, we have a great group of people that work at Chip Ganassi Racing. They work really, really hard, and they try to achieve things together that sometimes are hard to do. So we went about our business trying to be ready. We started the season miserably, honestly, and but by the time we got to Laguna Seca in May, we were moving along quite well.
Yeah.
But then we had this monumental task of going and racing in a foreign country,
Right.
out of a container,
Right.
in a garage atmosphere that included a timing stand, like what we call it in America, that's back at the back of the garage, a pit lane that has completely different rules,
Yep.
a racetrack that has completely different rules,
Right.
pit stops that are totally different.
Yeah.
So we practiced hard to be ready to race there. But what I loved about it was the fact that what they do, the ACO, and the way that they run a race is they reward speed. It's the least amount of time that you spend in the pit lane with the most amount of time that you spend at full speed without creating issues for yourself
Right.
on the racetrack. And that's what we did. We raced kind of against the grain of American racing. American racing is all about do-over.
Right.
You know, they close the pit lane
Right.
and they send the pace car out.
Yeah,
Close
so
the pit lane, send the
wait
pace
for the
car
wave
out.
around. And
Wait
try
for
to-
the wave around,
yeah.
and everybody gets back on the lead lap, and everybody's bunched back together. So if you're at the front of the queue in American racing, you have an advantage, whether you come in the pit lane or whether you're on the
Right.
racetrack when,
Right.
when it restarts. So
Right.
don't get me wrong, being at the front's the best thing to
Right.
be. But it's still American racing is
Right.
about do-over, do-over,
And if
do-over, do-over.
you're 12th, you can go off strategy and maybe still have a shot.
Yeah, that's correct. But in this racing, the way that they administer the racing, it's really awesome. Because if you work hard and your guys work hard on the car and it's a flawless car, you spend very little time in the pits during the race except for doing the things you have to do when you stop. You have a big opportunity.
Right.
I don't know that people gave us much of a chance.
Yeah. Well, especially Daytona was such a rough
Yeah.
start to
Yeah.
the year for you guys to
Yeah.
turn around in just a few months. So.
Yeah, but I can't say enough about the French seem to take a knock from everybody, but the reality is, going there to race that race,
Right.
they were so accommodating to us. They made sure that we were okay.
Right.
They continued to make sure that our people were okay in tech. They continued to make sure we were okay with how we raced the racetrack.
Right.
There were people from their sanctioning body continuing to come into our garage area, making sure we were all right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was, of all the stories that we've heard,
Right.
that wasn't what I expected at
Sure.
all,
Sure.
to be honest about it. And they probably deserve a great degree of credit for how we raced the race on race day
Right.
because of how much help they gave us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
All right, jumping around a little bit. When we went to your shop today, we paid a little visit. You gave us a quick little tour, which
Yeah.
again blew our mind that you had the time.
Or gave a shit.
Yeah.
I was like, is this
But
happening?
we showed up at just a little bit before 5,
Uh-huh.
and it was fairly sparse. There weren't many people
Yeah.
there. Just a couple of guys. And you said your shop hours are 7 to 4. It was after 4,
And
but
it's October.
and it's October,
19th
so we're a
today,
month.
yeah.
The IndyCar finale was a month ago. The sports car finale was a couple weeks ago. So it's, I assume, the slowest time of the year, but still, it was 4:45, and there was maybe 2 other guys in the entire compound. Is it an orderly place? I feel like even during your maddest thrashes, it's probably not chaotic there.
No, it's not chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's we've practiced a lot.
Right.
And so we've learned how to take some of that adrenaline activity away from what we do.
Sure.
So yeah, we're pretty well organized, and you know, if we've got an event coming up and we know that 7 to 4 isn't going to work,
Right.
we're gonna tell the staff, you know, we're gonna work 7 to 7 or 7 to 6 for the next 3 days or whatever. So it's not a surprise to anybody.
Sure.
But we predict the workload and roll accordingly.
Right. And tell us an average day of Mike Hall. I assume there's no such thing.
My business life, my Chip Ganassi life, is all about priority. I think what I love about what I do is the fact that it's never the same 2 days in a row.
Sure.
To answer your question, I look at every day as a new day.
Right.
And what I'm most frightened about when we win a race, wherever it is, whether it's a major or whether it's a race,
Right.
so we're never going to win again.
Yeah.
That drives me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That really drives
Absolutely.
me. You know, Tiger Woods said, there was a quote from him, I thought it was fantastic. They asked him, a local journalist asked him a question. He said, Tiger, what would it mean for you to win our golf tournament? He said, well, I'm going to try to be very nice with my answer. And I'm paraphrasing this, but he said, I'm going to work really hard to win this event. I want to win. That's what I want to do. But Tiger Woods is only going to be remembered for winning majors. And at the end of my career, they're going to say Tiger Woods won this many majors.
Right.
No matter how many PGA events he won. And I think in racing it's the same.
Yeah.
People remember what you did after you've left
Sure.
the scene
Yeah.
for how many majors you were part of winning.
Right.
I think that's what makes Roger Penske's record so special at Indianapolis, because of all the times that he's won there.
Right.
And when he set out, do you think it was important for him to say, I'm going to win 16 times or 18 times or
Right.
20 times or whatever?
wanted to keep doing
He said,
it.
I just want to go win again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we do. We want to go win again.
What's in your DVR right now?
My DVR. I watched last night. I watched The Birdcage.
Okay. That's a good one. Okay.
I love that. I love that movie, and
Yeah.
I love the original Get Shorty.
Okay.
I rewatched that a lot.
Okay. So I'm hearing a bunch of movies from the 90s. No
I
television?
pre-ordered the Jason Bourne thing because I love that series of movies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I hope it's as good as the other ones.
I
'cause
didn't see the
re-
last one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really like them. So,
Now, what are you like at home watching movies? Are you annoying because you're constantly quoting it as it happens? Oh, watch this, watch this.
yeah, I don't know. You know, when you rewatch the movies, it's kind of cool. You know, when you really do like them.
Have you ever seen There Will Be Blood?
What?
The movie There Will Be Blood by the Coen brothers?
No. Oh, no.
But he,
No idea.
But
Kind
you-
of had an idea.
but
you
you
like
like
the Coen
Coen
brothers.
brothers.
Well, yeah, because I like Big Lebowski.
that's
and
my favorite movie of all
Yeah.
time.
Okay, now we're
All right,
getting
we're doing
somewhere.
movie quotes with Mike Hall.
Okay.
now.
And Big Lebowski's awesome. Oh, as a matter of fact, what was the coolest thing that happened this year at Sonoma? Target had a party like they always have there, and they always have a guest entertainer.
Okay. Oh, I know where it's going.
Okay, so it was at a winery there, and
Yep.
we go to the winery, and then we wander down to this band stand thing, and they talked about the race team for a little while, and then they said we want to turn it over to the band, and it was Jeff Bridges.
No
Yep.
way.
Yeah, and
No way.
He's got his band. I forget what it's called, but it's like him and T-Bone Burnett.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was it was like, I mean, he's so cool in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Really,
He's the dude.
just, I mean, he is just such a California guy.
Yeah. No.
And you know, I thought that Prudhomme Snake was California cool.
Until you met the D.
He's on the left side of this guy. And it was so much fun to see him and see the interaction he had with the people, and
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, it was really amazing. But I love that movie.
Great movie. It's my favorite of all time.
I read an article about the movie some time ago, And they were talking about the premiere. I don't know if you guys heard about this or not, or read it. So he took his wife and his kids and his mom. His father had passed away by then. His mom was an actress, or had been an actress too.
Right.
Acting family. And about halfway through the movie, she got up and walked out and didn't come back.
Uh-oh.
Took a cab home.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So he said to her mom, he went over to find her, went home, called her on the phone with her. Mom, why did you leave? She said, Jeff, I don't know how you could play a part like that.
all the language.
The language and
Right.
the drugs and all that. He said, Mom, it's just acting. But somehow or other, he looks to me like it wasn't acting.
Right.
He does a good job.
Yeah. So how did all this start?
What's that?
Meeting Chip,
Oh.
kind of saying, here's the keys.
Yeah. One of my questions was, what was the first day at Ganassi like for you?
When I went to work for Chip, he was in the process of wanting to establish a team that could run or be able to run successfully 2 entries on the grid. And he was 1.5 really. He would run a second car at Indy, and they were when I came to work for him, Robbie Gordon was doing 8 races with Chip that year with Ford. Ford was helping. So Tom Anderson ran the team, and I was hired to work on creating the entity that we now have, to where we'd be able to create the ebb and flow necessary with all the people to run multiple cars successfully.
Right.
So that involved what went on in the building as well as what went on at the racetrack. And Tom and I worked really, really hard on that day and night to try to get it to the point where it could do that successfully. It's easy to run one car, but when you expand to a second car, if you haven't done it before,
Right.
it strains the first car horribly.
Yeah, 'cause it's not just doubling people. Now there's
No.
bridge people and management levels that you need to create and inventories.
Yeah. So I think when I went to work for Chip, I was the 18th or 19th person working there maybe. We moved some people around and we let some people go and we hired some new people and we just kept building the team. That was in 1992. We won our first race as a group of people in 1994.
Right.
But to answer your original question about Chip, I first met Chip at Lime Rock. It would have been in maybe 79 or 80.
Right.
79 or 80. Chip might be able to tell you. I was looking after Atlantic Car that year for a guy named Whitney Gans, and Whit wanted to run as many races as he could run. He wanted to run the North American professional series, but he also wanted to race every weekend if he could somewhere.
Wow.
So we had a fifth-wheel trailer, and we were a California-based team, but we traveled the United States, and we went to the SCCA National at Lime Rock because there was a pro race about a month later at Lime Rock. And we were in that gravel parking lot at that time at Lime Rock and parked next to Joe Stamola, who ran Formula Fords.
I know Joe Stamola.
And I'd known him for years anyway. And he said, I want to introduce you to a really nice young guy that I'm looking after in Formula Fords, and it was Chip. So I met him then, and we knew each other, befriended each other, and would talk to each other from time to time, but certainly the timing wasn't right to go to work until when I did.
Yeah. So kind of going in the theme of Mike Hull, the person, not the racer. You established the top 5 movies. You're a Little Lebowski urban achiever, as they call them.
Yeah.
What do you do to get away from it all? Like, what's the escape?
Well, this year it was the Ford GT program.
Hell of an escape.
In my spare time, I'll go to France.
And that really did eat up a lot of my time this
Yeah, I
year.
can imagine.
Oh, but I'm not the only person. Everybody in the building.
Right.
Normally, like, if I can, I'll take a couple of weeks and go on a sailboat in the British Virgin Islands in the wintertime.
There you go.
Do that periodically. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I like to play golf. I do that because it's such a release from what you do. You don't think about work. It's great. I have a place in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I've had one for quite a while. And I go down there when I can, just to relax down there.
Sure.
Right downtown.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So bought down there when the real estate market was kind of bad.
Is there like when you guys go for the Grand Prix? Is there like a Mike Hall party that you throw?
Yeah. My wife organizes that normally.
How do we get on that?
It's easy. You're on the inside now.
All right. Yeah, we're huge now.
Sean's a big partier. I don't know if you can tell, but
Yeah,
he really
right.
likes to.
All right. So Chip Ganassi. Ryan and I have had a couple conversations about this here and there. There's got to be a side to Chip we don't see because there's a very specific personality you see on TV where he's affable, gets lit up. Have you ever walked in on him like watching cat videos in his office, or just like, guys, check out this puppy?
You'd be like, "Well, let it go."
Yeah. Like,
I mean, he's just a regular guy.
right.
What I like about him, and always have, is the fact that he's a one-sentence person.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily you know where you stand, but you know where you're going.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you work with people, when you work for a person like that, you can get a lot done.
Right.
It's almost anti-committee, if you think about it.
Right.
But the reality is you can discuss it and then carry on. And I don't know that we think exactly alike,
Sure.
but we understand each other completely.
Because my assumption is you have a lot of authority here without getting second guessed too often. I don't really know.
Well, I don't know
but-
if that's what I like about Chip too is the fact that he lets me know what he thinks.
Right.
No matter what we do.
Right.
What I like about opinions is, people say, everybody has an opinion. Well, that's really important because the reason you have ears is to listen to those opinions. If you don't do that, you're not taking full advantage of the room. And if you don't take full advantage of the room, you're not going to make it better. Chip has a lot of experience in motorsports.
Right.
And that experience is invaluable. And when you add up the experience in the whole room, you shouldn't create this group think atmosphere where everybody agrees with everybody.
Right.
Right.
And they say, okay, yeah, we're going to do it that way.
Right. No,
and
you
then,
should disagree.
And then
Sure.
you go straight down the tubes.
Right.
It doesn't work. So you have to temper that by listening to every opinion in the room and make sure that the direction you're going is good, but then it needs to be swift.
And that's the thing you bring up is what you're making it sound like is it's very collaborative, but in a motorsport environment, collaboration only has a limited shelf life, in my opinion.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The reason I do what I do is because I love doing it, and I think I do it pretty well. I think I could probably do anything I want to do. If I chose to walk away from this job and do something totally unrelated to motor racing, I think I'd do a great job of it.
Right.
Because what happens, and I think everybody in racing that has left racing they were successful people, they take that ethic with them.
Right.
That drive and that competitive nature and that organizational and priority-driven strength, and I think that's how you have to go about your business.
Yeah.
When you win that often, it can almost become a numb feeling to some people because you expect to win and then you're up there and it's like, yeah, of course we won. What race do you look back at that really stands out as like, man, that was the one that I was so pumped that we won?
I think major races.
Yeah.
First of all, I wouldn't look back at one necessarily. The most recent one, for the sake of discussion, is the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That was a very emotional win for everybody that worked on the team. First of all, everybody exhaled, which was nice.
Right.
But having gone to the event, and that was the first time I'd ever been there for a race.
Yeah.
But to see the magnitude of the event, and then to see the people that came out of the woods onto the front straightaway and the grandstands, for that matter, and filled the whole front straightaway. It was a massive humanity. And then it was breathtaking almost that, we raced against a Ferrari. So that was kind of a throwback thing. And but the Ferrari that finished second and easily could have won the race was an American entrant.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So when it came time for the victory ceremony and they had the drivers up there, for the trophies and all that, they raised 3 American flags, and they played the American anthem, the national anthem. And that was absolutely, it stopped you in your tracks.
Yeah.
To see that in France, I can only imagine what it feels like for those people in Brazil this year that won medals for the United States.
Right.
Because
Right.
it gave you that sensation that this is big.
This is
Right.
bigger than me.
This is
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
To win the Indy 500, growing up being an IndyCar fan, I grew up when there were knobs on radios and the TV was black and white. And to win the Indy 500 is so special. That race today is as big as it ever has been. The electricity there on race day it's hard to describe to anybody. I don't think any major motor race I've ever been to, you feel the electricity that you feel on the Indy 500 on race day. It's amazing there. And to compete in the race and not win is devastating. To compete in the race and win is extraordinary. That, to me, that's a major.
So then on the other foot there, what's the one that got away that was really sour, hard to swallow?
More than once at Indianapolis.
Yeah.
More than once at Indy.
Yeah.
I mean, we gave up wins at Indy that it takes, honestly, you don't get over that right away. And one of the reasons is that you're there for a prescribed amount of time.
Sure.
So
yeah.
you've got all this team engagement for 2, 3, 4 weeks, plus all the preparation for the whole year to be
Yeah.
ready for that event. And when you know you have what it takes to win the race and you fail,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate to use the
Right,
word, but
right.
you do, you fail
Yeah.
at it for whatever reason, it's tough to get out of that.
Right.
It's tough to get out of that.
Is there a Ganassi common theme amongst the guys that drive for Chip? Is it like they all have the similar characteristics of a certain thing, or is it just if you can get the job done and you fit in, you're the guy?
Chip always tells them after they win, well, you're on for another day. What's in common is the fact that there's such our team, honestly, is this team of free-spirited people. So what's in common with the people that work, besides they love competing, is that they're very free-spirited, and they're not regimented, penguin-y type people. They're very, they live within a regimented society, but at the same time, they're very free-spirited people. Free-spirited people celebrate when they win. And the drivers are the same. For the most part, we've had drivers that in other applications maybe they didn't do the best, but they had all the ability.
Yeah.
They have in common the fact that honestly most of them have never had a fallback position. They
Right.
had to win races.
Yeah.
Right.
To get to where they are with Chip, they have to continue to win races.
Yeah.
And that's what we like. We have to win races as a team.
Does he still tell Scott Dixon he's got one more day on his contract?
Well, you know what? At Chip Ganassi Racing, if you work for Chip for 20 years,
Yeah.
you get a Rolex.
Oh, okay.
And it's a beautiful watch. It's a GMT 2 Rolex. It's a beautiful inscribed 20 years, for working at Chip Ganassi Racing. It's a wonderful piece. And Scott said the other day, we were talking, he said, I'm only 5 years away.
Wow.
This is going.
Wow. Yeah. All right.
So I hope in 5 years he gets his Rolex.
Right.
It's like a bad version of Lethal Weapon.
right.
You know?
Right. Too old for this.
Too old for this.
One more day.
He's a terrific race driver because,
Yeah.
I mean, we see it, people see it, so maybe that's a little bit of an understatement. But
Right.
what's great about Scott as a driver is the fact that he hasn't stopped wanting to learn.
Right.
Some drivers, when they get to a certain point and they're really gifted and they're really good at what they do, they kind of plateau, and that's good enough for them, and they
Yeah.
still continue to win races.
Right.
This guy, he's still ramping up,
Right.
and it's fun to watch.
So speaking of guys like that, like we were talking about earlier, we met with Joey. Joey, as you said, was part of that era where we sort of had a bunch of drivers that kind of got lost in the potential for open wheel. Who is out there right now that you think could have been a perfect Ganassi driver and just, you only had so many seats and timing just didn't work?
Present tense,
Sure.
I've looked at young guys, and I don't want to offend any if
Right.
I don't mention their names. So
Right.
and that's not fair because there's some terrific young
Right.
drivers.
Right.
But there's one that I really do personally love or like. Love's pretty strong.
We can edit that
is,
out.
Yeah, yeah.
Sean Rahal.
Oh, wow. That guy
He
gets a
is-
lot of love
he-
on this show.
He is fantastic.
Yeah.
And he tested for us in an IndyCar.
Yeah.
We did a test with him. He's the package.
Yeah.
And he's the fallout from what's presently going on, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because he doesn't have money.
Right.
Everything he's done in his career, he's had to fight to get it.
Right.
And everything he's raced, he's done enormously well in it.
Right.
And, he's going to Europe to race. He's coming to America to race.
Yeah.
He's doing it all right. And, he wants to race open-wheel cars in the worst way.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just not out there.
And he and I have talked. I talked to him yesterday on the phone about it. It's just if you stop racing because you only want to race open-wheel cars,
Right.
they will forget about you in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you have to keep racing. You have
Right.
to be active. You have to be in front. You have to be out there all the time.
Right.
And there's several others like him
Right.
that I think. I honestly think a really good example, and it doesn't answer your original question,
That's all
but
right.
I think a really good example of somebody that didn't let open wheel racing get in his way to get to open wheel racing was Krosnoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew him quite well. And, he came out of that Formula Mazda group. There was Krosnoff, Kendall,
Kendall. Yeah.
the Groffs,
Yep.
Kuykendall. I remember there were like 5 or 6 of these guys that went on to Super V's and some other
Yeah,
stuff.
sure.
And Kendall certainly had a terrific career.
Right.
And they all came from that La Crescenta, Pasadena area.
Yep. Yep.
And they were like the mafia from there.
My town.
But Jeff, he raced that stuff, and then he kind of struggled along a bit. And I don't remember how he befriended. He raced a truck in that SCCA road racing
Yeah.
series that was sponsored by a Japanese wheel company.
Yeah.
And he met the guy from Japan, and the guy said, "Well, what are you doing?" He said, "I don't have a job. I don't have a drive. I want to drive racing cars." And he invited him to come to Japan
Yep.
because they had an open wheel team there, and that's how he ended up in Japan.
Yeah.
And then he raced a GT car there and
Yep.
a Formula 3000 car
Yep.
there
Yep.
simultaneously, and didn't let the kind of car he raced get in the way of working on his career
Yeah.
and remaining active.
Just going where he had chance, right?
Yeah, and he continued to network. He would call me on the phone, let me know what was going on all the time, and
Right.
then when we had an opportunity for a test, we invited him to do the test with Zanardi.
Right.
To me, he represents what young guys should be doing with their careers.
Right.
They shouldn't let, like you said, Sean when he was 14 years old, he wanted to race Indy cars.
Oh,
I think you shouldn't let that get in your way. You should continue. You should race.
Right.
And sometimes I think in a driver's mind, they're on this pilgrimage that I have to get it done by the time I'm 21. I have to get it done by the time I'm 25.
Right.
And believe me, that comes and goes.
Right.
If you're not racing cars, it makes it a lot worse.
Well, but so on that note, like sports cars becomes a viable option because you can find your sugar daddy or whatever it is, and obviously in open wheel that's not as available. Kind of the current commercial viability of IndyCar is a challenge. I mean, obviously Ganassi just lost a 20-year partner.
Mm-hmm.
At the close of 2016, you guys had 4 cars. Here on this thing is being released mid-November. We don't quite know what the future of Ganassi's program is, how many cars and who's in them and all that. But, at the close of 2016, you had 2 cars that came with a certain amount of personal funding attached to their drivers. And this is Ganassi, which is one of the top 2 teams in IndyCar. Where do you see it going right now in terms of the commercial viability and keeping pro drivers versus guys who are bringing funding with them?
I think, to answer your question, I think it's a symptom of what we see globally.
Yeah.
It's not just a symptom of IndyCar racing.
Sure.
We've been spoiled for a long time in the United States by watching NASCAR. That's been very, very deep with commercial sponsorship, with full grandstands and big TV, and we see that diminishing.
Right.
And I think IndyCar racing, the ratings for television And some of the events, the grandstands are creeping.
Right.
I think that's a fair word.
Yeah.
Creeping upwards.
Right.
Where teams are trying to create the most value they can and maintain some profitability
Right.
from the capitalization side of your business to keep it in business
Right.
in the off season, which is long.
I mean, you guys now
5
have
months
a
of
5-month period, right?
being down
Yeah.
because some people in Boston decided that was a good idea.
Right.
And we're living that. We're living proof that as a race team that we're running a quality program that's mixed.
Yeah.
Presently, and we do well with it. But I think it's the direction that racing generally is going to go. Who would have ever thought in Formula One that over half the grid
Yeah.
would be people that brought money?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That to me is, I mean, it takes a lot of money to race in Formula One.
Right.
But even so, it's to me, Formula One had always represented talent from end to end.
Yeah. On every,
That was there because it was talent from end to
Supposed
end.
to be.
Right.
Let's face it, in the kart days and IndyCar racing, and I know things are different then.
Right.
And it certainly isn't a total fair comparison, but you had four chassis manufacturers,
Right.
2 tire companies,
Right.
3 to 4 engine companies,
Right.
national television, network television.
Right.
You had full grandstands. They paid a purse 15, 20 years ago of $125,000 to win a race. And in those days, they paid you $1 million to win a
Yeah.
championship.
Right.
So by comparison, it was very flush.
Right.
It was there was a lot of money flowing.
And the OEM, correct me if I'm wrong, but the OEM partners you had, like, you know, the Ganassi, Firestone, Reynard, Honda, those weren't all completely customer deals, correct?
No, they
like
were
you didn't
not.
have to write a
No, they were
lease
not.
and all that, yeah.
But it's changed since then,
Yeah.
and you can't blame the whole thing in IndyCar racing on what happened when Greed decided to create division,
Right.
because that's what happened.
Right.
Let's face it.
That's the best way I've ever heard
Yeah,
it.
I've never heard it put that way.
And we're all suffering because that did happen.
Right.
But we're passionate about what goes on, and I think the problem is if I go to Apple, because you have your computer there, if I go to Apple and I say to Apple, I'm an IndyCar team and I want you to sponsor me. Let's just
Right.
say it in a simple way.
Right.
Forget about all the slide presentation
Great
and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah.
other stuff, right?
Hey,
And
give me
they're
money.
going to say, okay, well, how much money do you need? I'm going
Right.
to say, oh, well, I need, for the sake of discussion, I need $5 million,
Right.
$6, $7 million, whatever I say. They say, well, yesterday I had a NASCAR team in here,
Right.
and they wanted more money than that. But guess what their reach is?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're doing, I think, pretty well considering where
Right.
our reach is.
Yeah.
I think we're doing a really good job as a series. I think we put on a great show, and we just need the growth to be a little more accelerated than
Right.
it is.
Well, so let me turn that around a little bit, not to get to topic of the week and all that kind of nonsense, but what you just said about your Apple analogy is something that I've felt has existed for the last 10 years, and fundamentally, it's not even about NASCAR or other forms of motorsport. The culture of advertising has changed, in my opinion. That if Apple's launching a new iWatch or whatever, and they're told they've got a $30 million budget to go do whatever they can, there's very intelligent ways now and very trackable ways to spend $30 million, and putting it on the side of a race car, and just in terms of empirical data, doesn't provide a lot of good decision making if you're a middle manager that's just trying to figure out the best places to advertise your product. So there's got to be another incentive beyond simple advertising value, correct? So I look at your Ford program. IMSA does not provide a lot of advertising value for what they're doing, and yet it was worth the effort to go to Le Mans, do a full season of North American racing, and it's because Ford has an engine technology that as an OEM they wanted to showcase beyond simple, let's run a commercial and put our sticker on the side of a car. So I'm turning that into my question of the current nature we have of, for lack of a better expression, spec racing, where we have 2 manufacturers, there's a certain amount of BOP, certain very, very narrow restrictions on how you can run your bodywork, chassis, what have it. If I know an arms race is dangerous, but if the rules were more open, do you think it would attract more manufacturer interest?
Well, I guess my answer to that question
Yeah.
would be, first of all, has it made a difference?
In what sense?
Has spec racing really made a difference? In other words, what I'm saying
Did
is,
it bring out
Yeah.
the more cars and the whole
Right.
thing?
yeah, I mean,
right.
has it really made a difference?
Right.
Yes, in the sense that it's made racing closer.
Right.
You see more racing on the racetrack,
Right.
wheel to wheel,
Right.
whether it be fender to fender or wheel to wheel. But the reality is, has it increased the numbers?
Right.
It has
'Cause
not.
My assumption was we moved towards spec during the split when it wasn't about increasing as much as surviving and like let's
Surviving.
keep all the teams, but we're putting now all the cost burden on the teams because
Right.
there's
Yeah.
no incentive.
Well, not
for
only
somebody to
that, you're
spend,
putting an
so-
enormous amount of pressure on the sanctioning body
Right. To keep it all spec.
to keep it all the same.
Yeah.
And raise the level of political awareness on how you get there. I don't know that this experiment in spec cars has done what everybody thought it was going to do.
Sure. We're not having full fields and
That's correct.
crazy.
That's
I
correct.
got you what you're saying.
It has made the racing tons better.
Right.
But beyond that, and maybe it's kept us in the corral in terms of spending money.
Right.
I honestly don't know, but I can tell you for a fact that because the box is so small now that we work in,
Right.
you're out trying to find money to work inside that box that you didn't have to worry about before.
Well, and that's kind of part of my question. So, like, I don't expect you to name numbers, but like 1996, 1997, you have the competing chassis partners, competing engine manufacturers, and competing tire manufacturers. And Ganassi had a good couple of years there because you had a different combination of things working with you versus Penske and all the other guys that were out there. In those days, you didn't have to be a customer program. In other words, if they wanted to, I think Honda could give you engines because you were a good partner to have, or Firestone would be. Well, in other words, 100% of the cost was not put on the teams to provide.
Correct.
In other words, you didn't have to write all of the checks to go
Correct.
race, whereas now you do because Dallara has no incentive to
Well,
compete
yeah.
against everybody else.
That's correct, and nor does the tire company.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Budget-wise, in terms of the actual money going out of the team, is it better now than it was in 1996? Because in my head, it probably isn't.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Because you had other people picking up the check.
That's correct.
Okay.
Kind of like this meal.
Yeah? Because you lost the bet earlier.
Yeah.
That's what competition provided.
Well, we could
but that-
run out the door. They'll catch it. They
Yeah,
catch
well,
us.
you don't have to be fast. You have to be faster than the guy behind you.
That's right.
I think
That's
you could
right.
probably take me in a heat.
I would say
yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things we do on the show, Mike, is a pass-along question, where the previous guest asks the next question, or the next guest a question, and so forth. So earlier today, sitting right where you're sitting now, we had Kevin Rocket Blanche from IndyCar, who formerly,
yeah?
yep, familiar with him. So this question made me laugh because, as you can see, I'm wearing an Acura T-shirt, and I work for Honda HPD as well. The question was in a
And we didn't tell him to ask this.
not at all.
Yeah.
But the question in almost a condescending, sarcastic way was, why would you decide to go to Honda?
Oh, that was the question.
That was the
his
question.
From him?
From
Yeah.
him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a public answer and a private answer. The looking at our history, first of all, Chip Ganassi racing history and HPD history, it's been really, really good together over time frames of time. Our technical group and theirs has always matched up well together.
Right.
We've always dared to be a little different.
Sure. Sure.
And maybe there's a little bit in that, but I think we looked at the future of IndyCar racing and where we wanted to be positioned as we're going down the road, and we wanted to be in a reliable position for that over the next few years, and we thought this was the right thing for us as a team to do.
Okay.
Some of it is instinctive, some of it is based on fact. I think, in fairness to the answer, that you couldn't ask for a better partner in Chevrolet. They're racing people
Yeah.
from the top all the way through the system. They're racing people. They're a core group of racers, Ilmore Engineering and Pratt Miller, I don't think you can find a better two groups of people to support the Chevrolet powertrain program. I don't know how to quite answer the question. You know, I think it's going to take us a little while to be where we need to be with Honda. I don't think it's a slam dunk.
Right.
But I think when the slam dunk needs to happen, it's going to start happening for us. So I think the timing was right.
Ford sports car, Chevrolet stock car, Honda IndyCar. How is not everyone furious with you guys? I have no idea. Like I have a hard time getting one girl to go out with me. I don't know how I could balance three.
I think it's kind of an interesting situation because we are very cognizant of the respective technologies. But we as a company or as a team, we learn quite a bit. And it does help us. It helps us overall. And I think the respective the OEMs have a respect for that because they know that they're going to benefit from it also in some way or other. And we aren't telling them how to build their engine because somebody else does it a certain way.
Right.
We don't do that.
Yeah, sure. Hey,
We
check
don't,
this
you
out.
know, we're not sharing photographs and we aren't sharing data and we aren't doing that. But
Right.
it just what's terrific about partners is when you can diversify, and this probably goes back to your Honda question directly, or Kevin's Rocket's question. When you diversify partnerships, when it's not the same, it's not sameness, it drives the learning process more quickly. It helps your group of people to look at problems in a completely different way as to how you could very well solve them. And the light goes on, you know, with your people all of a sudden. Oh my God, look at that. Wow, that was so simple. And it's that groupthink thing, you know, where you have everybody so caught up in thinking a certain way that they sometimes don't look to find a different way to solve the problem.
Sure.
And I think what's made our team good in the same building, which you saw, Ford and Honda now in this case in the same building,
In the same room.
is the fact that we look at solving problems in different ways,
Right.
which helps us solve the problems.
Right.
So to follow up with that, tomorrow morning we'll be having
It's kind of like a brunch.
Brunch.
Coffee brunch.
very
Oh.
sophisticated
Yeah.
with Ed Carpenter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's our next guest. We don't really know much about him other than the public. Ed
Yeah,
Carpenter.
we've never met him.
No real tie to him.
Yeah, he didn't offer a shop tour, by the way.
So he's out.
So,
We're not fans
okay.
anymore.
So we are Hall and Ganassi all the way.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Very good.
if you want any dirt or scoops,
we're mostly
Yeah.
Mike Hall.
yeah,
Yeah,
mostly
we're
Mike
Team
Hall.
Hall
So
That's
for
good
sure.
for us.
So
yeah,
we
I
can-
appreciate
Ganassi's
that.
cool, but
if there's any secrets you need us to find out, we're your guys.
we'll hit him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's
Actually-
a lot of people want to know what Ed's doing for drivers.
I was
that's
just
for
going to
sure.
say, what do you think he's
Well,
doing?
we were talking about that today, and somebody said to me, "Well, if you were Ed Carpenter, what would you do?"
Yeah.
I said, "For me, it'd be real simple. I would hire Juan Montoya in a heartbeat,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't mess around before somebody else picks him up or makes
Well,
a deal with him."
We'll ask. I'm pretty sure our podcast is not the launch bay for announcements, but we can
And
try.
and I would hire J.R. Hildebrand to be his co-driver in that 20 car
Okay.
as a road track driver,
Yeah.
and run him at the speedway as a third car.
Yeah.
You know, that to me would just create so much symmetry there, and that's what I would do. But in terms of Ed, he's a terrific person.
Yeah.
He's truly a throwback guy
Right.
in terms of where he came from and what he's accomplished and how fast he runs on an oval in an IndyCar.
Yeah.
He's really, really good at what he does. And he has such a big heart and so much passion for IndyCar racing.
Right.
His family does, but he does almost independently of them.
Okay.
Right.
And I have a great degree of respect for that.
Now, how do we turn that into a question?
It's a really, yeah. How do we turn that into a question? I don't know.
What's for brunch?
Yeah. I guess the question would be is how is he going to grow his team?
Sure. More marketing.
You know, really, I mean, the thing is he has such a great foundation with his team now.
Right.
Yeah, it takes money to grow it.
Sure.
But I think the question basically is how is he going to grow his team
Right.
to the level where he should be going with it because
Right.
of the passion that he has for IndyCar racing.
Right.
Is there any Mike Hull legends like within the shop, like because what Dan Banks said was that one of the guys at your team told his son, like, hey, don't look at Mike Hull, like don't look at him. And we were like, oh man, what if that's like don't give him cold coffee. If his coffee's not exactly 98, he'll freak.
Well, I don't know if there is or there isn't, because for me it's just about interaction.
Yeah.
So I've never worried about that stuff.
There's
all
not that
good.
one thing that sets you off, Don't touch my collar.
Oh no.
The radio's on the wrong station.
Yeah.
He's like, that's it.
Yeah.
No
What I
one's
don't
going
like
off.
are people that. Well,
Make bad jokes.
no.
Headsets on.
What I don't like are people that don't learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
We wouldn't
if-
get along.
Yeah, that really bothers me. And when you have a room full of people to learn from, what I don't like are people that don't learn from the people they should be learning
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, absolutely.
That really bothers me
Sure.
Thank
a
you.
lot. Yeah.
So at next Tuesday, we're
What
gonna
are
sit
you
down
doing?
with Max Jones.
Max Jones, yes.
Oh, you
Tuesday
are?
morning.
Yeah.
8
Oh,
a.m.
terrific.
We're having brunch or breakfast with him
No,
at
it's
like
an 8 a.m. breakfast,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got time for souls. So.
Any good Mac? Because I'm told he is called Max the Axe because if you cross him, that's it.
I think he's very direct.
Yeah.
And he does get his people together and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
In terms of just understanding before he makes a decision about what's going on. But he's not afraid to swing the axe if he has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that style for most, or just that's his style and your style is a little bit more?
I think everybody's style is different.
Yeah.
I think personally, you have to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but not for a long period of time.
Yeah. You only have so much.
Because it just it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work.
I mean, speaking of that, is there a reason it's never come out that Johnny O'Connell tried to murder Dario Franchitti?
I didn't know that.
Huh.
All right. That's news to me.
Moving on.
Speaking of hitchhiking, a long time ago, in the cart days, my wife and I flew out to Vegas for a Christmas holiday, and we were going to stay with Richie and Brenda Hearn at their house out there. So Richie and he had a simulator, and we were on a simulator doing stuff, and he says, I got something I got to show you. I said, what you got? He says, just a minute. He goes in his office, and he comes out, and he hands me this business card, and it said, Carl Edwards. I can't remember what it said. Will drive your race car or something, and had a phone number.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, where'd you get that? Because Carl by then was driving for Jack Roush.
Right.
And I don't remember if he was in trucks or Busch Series then or where he was. But, he was starting to develop a name for himself.
Sure.
And I said, where'd you get that card? He says, I got to tell you. He said, several years ago when I was still driving whatever he was driving, I don't know what kind of cars, intermediate formula cars or whatever he was driving. He said, I was driving out to IRP to practice because they raced the night before the 500. And he said, there was a guy on the side of the road with a Simpson helmet bag hitchhiking. And I pulled over and picked this guy up and asked him where you were going. He says, I'm going out to IRP. Could I get a ride? He said, yeah. And Carl handed him the card.
That's awesome.
And Carl was going out there to try to get a sprint car ride.
Yeah.
Right.
A Silver Crown car or a sprint car or
Something
whatever.
you could do, sure.
Something you could do, so you just never know.
Right.
You
That's
don't know.
awesome. I'm sure you got to get going soon here, but Scott Dixon has this perception publicly of being completely unflappable. This ice guy. In my head,
Ice guy,
ice guy,
Iceman.
whatever. In the way guys like us would work, is like that's just a calling to want to screw with him. Does that happen?
I like how Mike does not break.
You're not.
He's
Yeah, I
just
like how you're not
yeah, what do
budging
you
one
want?
bit. Like,
what do you need?
Has there ever been any attempt to mess with him?
Dan.
Yeah.
Dan would mess with anybody.
Okay.
I can see that.
Dan tried to take him to task a few times, but
Tried. That means he failed.
yeah.
Okay.
Scott is pretty hardcore.
Sure.
And I don't think he's changed a lot. He's just become more public.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And I think he carries that well now. I don't. Not that I'm
You've
aware of.
never. Okay. No one's ever like.
Yeah, I can't think of Scott Dixon without thinking of the word intense. Because I just and I don't mean like if you saw him in here like earlier when we saw him, I wasn't like, oh, that guy's probably
Right.
iron fist over there at the sushi table. But he just seems like he takes his craft to that ultimate level of intensity. But the coolest thing I saw him do this year was last qualifying session for Sonoma. Fast 6, pulls out of the pits. You guys are the first car out of the box. And then going up into turn 2 at Sears Point, Will Power fires it up the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Goes wide, drops wheels on the exit as Dixon goes by, and he gives him the total.
Yeah, jack off. Yeah.
That was like, I already liked the guy. Now he's my hero.
That was on Sunday morning in the warm-up.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay,
and what happened
yeah.
was we left the pit box, and Power followed us out. And I talked to Power after the session was over, and he said that they were talking to him on the radio and telling him that he had to change his fuel mixture, his advance, or something.
Okay.
And so he looks down to do it, and he looks up, and the next thing he knows, he's off the road,
Yeah.
and he just sails past Dixon.
Right. That video clip of that was so funny.
Oh, that was good, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. We had a miserable year this year. We won 2 races. And we did. We had a terrible year. We stepped on it a few times when we could have won.
Right.
And I personally feel bad about that because I want to see him get to Mario.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you start thinking about that, you'll never get to Mario.
Absolutely. You just got to keep winning.
Yeah, you got to keep winning. Yeah.
How many away is he?
I don't have any idea. I'd have to ask Kelby. He'd have to tell me where we are on the numbers. Every
Right.
time we win something, he tells me what
Oh,
we just
sure.
did.
I'm sure.
Right.
I have no idea. I don't
too
know.
many.
I don't know.
Do you and Max Jones ever give each other shit for competing programs? You were like, hey, Max, how
No,
many championships
as a
have
matter
you
of
won?
fact, it's probably the opposite. I think
Okay.
we help each other quite a bit.
Sure.
And here's the reason why. I can't call Tim Cindric on the telephone and ask him questions, but I can call Max Jones.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
Sure. For
And,
sure.
and so we're in similar positions, and
Sure.
we work for the same person.
Right.
And so we have that in common. And I think what we have in common is the fact that we have a lot of experience. We're both California guys.
Right.
That's nice. Native Californians, I think. I think he is. I'm not sure. I am. And it's a pleasure to be able to talk to somebody like that and ask them what they think.
Right.
And you don't get that anywhere else.
Yeah, it'd be funny if like the first time Chip hires a guy, you show up and it's like a clone Mike Hall. You know, the mannerisms are the same.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a second.
Well, I think, I talked about that earlier about the free-spirited people.
Yeah.
Chip's not big on job titles, although it seems like we have to have job titles.
Sure.
Right. You have to. Sure.
And the reason is, I think, in his mind, he thinks that they are too restrictive.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And if you don't define somebody's job by giving them a job title, then they
You're not confining them to the role.
they move outward.
Yeah,
they
they'll
don't move.
do more stuff.
They don't
Yeah.
stay inside the lines all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty neat, actually, to be able to be in that position, to be able to do that, and to have that means to try to get to the end.
Fair enough. Okay. So you got your watch for being there 20 years.
I did get a watch.
Okay. You've won 1,000 Indy 500s and 1,500.
Oh, I thought
IndyCar
you were
championships.
going to try to get him to say I'm too old for this.
We will get there.
Okay. I was like, oh, please tell me you're doing this.
What's the Michael legacy? What's the title of your book?
Oh, I'd have to write the book.
Fair enough. We can ghostwrite. I'm just saying you don't.
Maybe that's the title.
I don't wanna write
I
this?
guess I'll have to write the book. Yeah, it's funny because I've had a couple of journalists ask me about that lately, and I'm not sure why. I hate it because it means you're getting older.
Right.
And that absolutely sucks.
Right.
For me, I still have a lot to do. Yeah. That's probably the primary thing for me.
So it would be I'm not too old.
I'm not
for
too
this
old
shit.
for this shit.
Michael.
by Dr. Michael.
Dr. Michael.
Dr.
Yeah,
Michael.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we get your best Danny Glover?
Can you get?
Your best Danny Glover? I'm too old for this shit. Have you seen Lethal Weapon?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, do you have a Chip Ganassi impression?
No, I do not.
I think that's a lie.
What about a Scott Dixon impression?
Oh my God, Scott, I'm not good with that stuff. I never had a chance to go into that area of expertise.
Yeah.
The acting part is not me.
Fair enough.
You guys ever do karaoke?
We have done karaoke when we've been extremely drunk.
Yes. All right, who nails it? Who nails it? Who sings like a mother?
Sings terribly bad? Susie Weldon.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
Not
All right.
good.
All right.
Yeah, Dan wasn't very good either.
All right.
Yeah. Dario's not very good.
So it sounds like you got a whole team of terrible
Yeah,
singers.
right.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
good to know.
But that wasn't that. It would have been our version of team building.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
We'll be
it's
bad at
okay.
karaoke. Okay.
Yeah. We've done a lot of that.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm super happy and
Oh, good.
and thankful for you to do this.
Well, that's what we try to do here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good.
If you want a cardboard cutout of yourself for season 3, we'll happily make that
Okay,
happen.
thank you.
You actually paid Bill Riley and his dad Bob some nice compliments earlier today.
Oh, my God.
About the DP program.
Yeah.
How much did they pay you to say that nice stuff?
Absolutely nothing. You know, the thing is
It's like, no
you know,
joke.
I love all these people that have come before me in racing and what they accomplished, and Bob Riley in particular has gotten to do so many terrific things in his lifetime in motor racing.
Right.
And all of them have been successful.
Yeah.
Right.
He might question that, but I think all of them have been very successful, and he did it his way.
Right.
But his way, what I love about him is that he's so practical about what you have to race on the racetrack. And his way is the right way to go racing. When we started with him, Bill wasn't there.
Okay.
What happened is we had made a commitment to run in the Grand Am Series for 2004 in 2003. And Toyota decided to come on board with the Lexus engine project for that car. That was actually a boat motor. And but it was approved as a normally aspirated motor, and that was the motor we started with. So we did a bit of a landscape search trying to figure out which car, and there were several cars that were already, you could just go buy one and go racing. And Chip said, well, what should you do? And I said, well, I can't remember which car we thought might have been the best one at the time. I said, but I heard that Bob Riley is designing a car. I'm going to go down there to his shop, because at that time they were in Speedway.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go down and see what he's got. So I go down there to see him. Ben Bowlby came with me because he was working for us at the time.
Yeah.
The two of us go down there. We met with him. We said, where's the car? He said, well, he pulled out like a napkin thing like this and a magic marker.
Sounds right.
And he goes like this. And he says, okay, there it is right there. So we talked to him for a little while, and I said, well, can we get a car by the Roar test at Daytona? He said, yeah. All I need is a deposit. Okay. How much? He told me. So I go back to the office. I call Chip, and he says, well, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to buy a Riley car. Well, what's it look like? I said, well, right now we just have a surface drawing. And he says, well, what's a surface drawing? I said, well, it's kind of on a napkin. And he said, really? There's no car? I said, no, Chip, but it's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to blow all these other cars out of the water.
Yeah.
Right? Really, you think so? I said, yeah. He says, well, then let's do it. He says, what do you need? I told him. He said, well, take him a check. So take him a check. And that was Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So
This is September for a car you need in January.
this was on a Friday. Nobody else was working hardly.
Sure,
You know, I go back down there in the afternoon, hand him the check, say, let's go. And oh, by the way, he looks at the check. He goes, well, this is double. I said, yeah, because we want 2 cars.
Yeah.
He says, okay.
Okay. Sure.
So we made the deal.
This is
And
September.
evidently what happened was they didn't have any business there. Bill had gone down to Yates to go to work.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
And to do NASCAR. And they were going to lay everybody off in Indianapolis on Monday morning after the holiday.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So we made the deal, and he started on the car, and we told him, whatever you need from our engineering group, we'll help you in any way possible. He says to me, that will not work. That never works. I said, Bob, whatever you need. Okay. So we started collaborating on things, and he'll tell you, if you ask him, that we are the only team that they've ever had success being able to do that with.
Okay.
Cool. So then what happened was, the way I met Bill was we're about a month into the project maybe, and Bob calls on the phone and says, "Hey, could you come down? I need to talk to you." Oh shit. Okay. So I go down there, and here's Bill Riley.
Yeah.
Hi, how you doing? Fine. And Bob says, "Well, we've got a little issue here. Bill's decided to come back here to work, but the reason is he's going to run a race team for a guy named Wayne Taylor." Fine for me. Whatever you want to do. Well, we wanted to make sure it was okay. I said, "It's fine for me." He said, "But the problem is they need a car."
Oh, boy.
And we're only
Okay.
building 2 cars right now.
Yeah.
So I could even figure out where he's going with
Yeah,
that,
right,
with that
right.
statement. I said, "Well, then they need the other car, but you're going to build us a 3rd car, right?"
Yeah.
"Well, yeah." I said, "Well, that's okay for us. Let's do it. Then at least we have somebody to share data with." That's
Yeah.
what I said immediately. I said, "We got 2 people running instead of 1.
Yeah.
Let's do it." And so that's how we started together,
Right.
and it worked really, really well. I have so much respect for Bob and Bill both, and how they run themselves, how they run their program, how fair they were with us, and they were competitors. They became competitors.
Right. Right.
But we shared unselfishly everything that we learned about the car, and they did the same with us.
That's great.
And that's
very
there's
rare.
barns now full of Riley cars
Yeah.
that came from that era.
Yeah.
Right.
There it is.
I think they built 50 or 60 of those cars.
He told us the number on this show last year. I can't remember,
Yeah, I
but
don't
it's
remember,
something insane. And you guys have won over like 100-something races. Or
Yeah,
it's
they
like
have. We won 40
just 40.
40 plus races. I don't know where that thing ended up. But, yeah.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we were trying to make fun of the guy, and then you made him out
And
to
you
be a
had to make it-
hero.
yeah.
How
Well,
much,
I don't
how
know.
much did you pay
I
him?
just have so much respect for what they do.
Yeah, we do as well. In fact, we didn't really know Bill other than just the normal, see him every now and then, say hi to him kind of thing. And then after he was on our show last year, he became
One of our favorite
one
people.
of our heroes. And
Yeah.
so that's why he's a cardboard cutout in your shop earlier today laying on the
Yeah.
floor, which he has no idea.
Yeah.
I'm so envious of what they're doing now with this DPI thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, for a cost, I'm sure you could get in.
I know.
So.
You and I
Oh.
could team up. We'll go do the whole season
Yeah, you
together.
could run a
and,
Honda.
we'll
Love
get
to do it.
Sean for the long races.
I'd love to do it
Nope.
in 2018.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that when the Ford thing runs out, or okay? So it would be in your ideal world,
Yeah.
2 things. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, we're expanding the building, so we'd have room.
You got the room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What's one more program?
And
Bring in another manufacturer completely.
you'll be 1 year from retirement.
Be Hyundai. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to have.
Does Michael have any toys? Any cool?
I did have cars. I had a Zanardi NSX for a long time.
Ah, so
and
cool.
I sold it
Man.
to a collector.
Oh, okay.
And I had a '67 all original GT350 Shelby Mustang.
Oh, geez.
And I sold that to a collector. I just bought a 2008 Bullet Mustang,
Ah, okay.
they built 5,800 of those total.
Okay.
Yeah.
1,300 black ones. So they picked 13 as the number.
Yeah.
1,300 black ones, and the rest are green ones. I have a black one. But the reason I bought this one was it was sitting in a barn up near Chicago. This collector guy had it, and it was in one of those bubble wrappy things with a trickle charger on it, along with 25 other cars that he has. And it had 1,000 miles on it.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
So it's like a brand new car.
Yeah, right.
It still smelled new. I got underneath the thing with a flashlight, and the barcode tags were still on the exhaust system.
'Cause
wow.
They
it
didn't
hasn't
burned
been run.
off.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I bought that car, and it's a nice driver.
That's cool.
It's got a short throw 5-speed, got a big V8 in it.
Yeah.
Nice.
The only thing it didn't have was a satellite radio, so I went to
that.
Best Buy, got that, put
Yeah.
that in, and it's actually really nice.
Now, did you do your own work on that stuff?
I did that.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the thing that had the phone and the satellite radio and the backup camera and all that. Just put
all
in
in one. Yeah.
And it looks I mean, the thing, it's a Pioneer thing, and it looks flush in the.
Yeah.
It looks like it was meant to be in there from the factory.
Nice. Okay.
But they didn't start satellite radios. I found out till 2009.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's because I thought, I should have one.
Yeah,
and I
what's
started
the deal?
researching
Yeah.
it to find
Right.
out, why Ford must just have one
Right.
for this model car.
Yeah. Nope. Not
Never
enough.
had it. Interesting.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, because the guys that are now in the competition department at Ford, Parasak, who runs it, Dave Parasak, Kevin Groot, and Mark Rushbrook, were all on the last Mustang project
Okay.
before they got moved over. So
Okay.
I got a source for stuff right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're like, all
exactly.
right, hook
They know
it
a
up.
thing.
Yeah.
I got to go to Ford for the Lincoln Ride and Drive about 4 years ago, and me and like 20 other instructors all figured out that the Ford GT was coming back because we were out on. They kind of built this giant course for dealer training kind of thing for the MKS Lincoln, and it kind of connected the little autocross that's just next to the world roads where there's like 12 different pavements of different types, and we do an outer loop on the high speed oval and then the inner loop on the slow speed and all that. And you get a track radio and you have your own radio, and so you're listening to Ford engineers all day long go, okay, this is coming on long roads right now, or Raptor for off-road or whatever. And they had, I can't remember what the code word was, but it was something prototype for high-speed oval. And like, we didn't think anything of it because you're hearing weird stuff all day. But one of the guys that was working there, I'm not gonna say his name, I don't want to get the guy in trouble. He's a super cool guy that's been working there for forever. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, you guys need all to come inside. You're not supposed to see this." And of course, we're like, "Well, what is it?" And he's like, "I can't tell you, but they're windows." And sure enough, here comes this very, very early model of the current car, which you could tell was an old car with new body panels and everything on it. But it was like, oh wow. But we had signed an NDA, so it's like, can't say anything. Now the car's out, it's not a big deal. But that was 3 or 4 years ago, and my dad was a Cosworth fan, or is a Cosworth fan, and restored a GT40 for a guy, an original car. In fact, chassis 1010 that Adrian Newey then bought, and then destroyed twice at Le Mans and Snetterton, or not Snetterton, but Goodwood. But anyways, I grew up in a family that really enjoyed Ford race cars, that real Ford race cars, and so to see the Ford GT come back and then see this very early
the
model.
original project was called Silver.
Okay, that might have been what it was.
Okay, and it was because of the Silver anniversary.
Okay.
That's why it was called Silver, and the original project was going to be a Mustang.
Oh, all right.
And they figured out that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So then it changed direction.
Yeah.
When we did our deal with Ford to move from BMW and the prototype thing, it was originally a 4-year agreement. But the first 2 years were with the prototype car, and that was all about developing the engine.
Yeah.
And all the engine accessories and the engine package. So that was all plugged into that DP car, and we ran that for 2 years so that when it plugged into the GT car, we didn't have to work on that part of the process.
Yeah, right.
And that really did help a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're okay to put that in, the Project Silver and all that.
I don't know about that. You probably
Okay.
shouldn't.
No, it's fine. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
What if we said Project Boo?
Yeah.
Because that would leave it kind of mysterious.
Yeah, it would leave us mysterious.
Yeah.
But I think that they kind of shelved the Mustang thing and just moved on.
Yeah, there was somebody did a rendering of a Ford GT LM Mustang.
Yes.
That was on all over the internet, and it looked awesome. Yeah. I was really excited. I hope that would become a thing. But anyways. Cool. Well, we honestly can't believe you would give anybody this amount of time, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we knew we were in good hands because the first email you replied was, I'll be available on this date and while you're in Indy, and let me know if you need anything else while you're here. And it was like, wow, no one
and
says
it was
that.
within like a couple hours of the initial email.
Yeah.
Which we
like,
can't
hey,
get
we're
from,
strangers.
Yeah. We can't get that from PR people, and that's their job. So I give you credit.
Yeah, I'm traveling. I'm leaving again tomorrow. I'm traveling tomorrow, so.
Yeah, where are you off to?
I'm going to Florida tomorrow.
Nice.
Huh.
Yeah.
We'll see you there in a week.
Yeah.
We'll swing by.
Yeah. Who is completely uninvited to your parties?
Paul Tracy.
Paul Tracy.
Who's not invited?
Chip.
To the party?
Max Jones.
I don't really hate anybody in racing.
Doesn't have
My
to be
wife,
about ri- it doesn't have to
my
be about
wife
rivalry.
now on the
Oh.
other hand, she holds grudges.
Oh, I was
Okay.
gonna say she's invited,
Okay.
right?
Who's
yeah.
out?
Yeah.
Who's
but,
out with Mrs. Hall?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
Who's out? Who's out with Mrs. Hall?
I don't know. We'd have to ask her the flavor of the week.
I like the
there,
dodge.
Oh,
Okay.
flavor of the week.
Okay.
on who it is, but
Or like who's
she's-
just like, you may like him, but they're just too embarrassing.
she
'cause
gets
you,
upset with me because I give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's such
And,
as this dinner.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
so-
they'll be great. She's like, they were not great.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to find out who's on the invited guest list there.
Show up like, hey, it's me. He's like, sorry, Marco. Beat it.
Yep.
He's like, but.
All right. We'll let you get going here.
Good, thank you, guys.
Continental's got the check.
I'm finished.
Wow, that was such a great episode. That guest really knew how to tell a story.
Well, good. I'm glad you liked Mike Hall, Ryan. who's clearly sitting right next to me.
You're welcome, Sean. I'm right here.
All right, mega thank you to Mike Hall for giving us the time, and again, for a guy in his position, the graciousness he had in the whole process was just unbelievable, starting with a volunteer shop tour that he initiated, all the way down to just giving us lots of time for dinner on a day before he had to travel. Just absolutely remarkable guy. So, all right, being a California guy, I figured we'd throw some California music at him. We're going to go back to the Aggrolites, who some of you may remember from season 1. This is a song who shares the same title with the album. Here's a Reggae Hit LA, available on iTunes.